Hi guys, welcome back to the Talk Real to Me podcast. I'm your host, Macaulay Stahowski. Today we have Faith Sierra with Vero Mortgage.
Hello.
Thanks for coming on.
Having me.
Yes, excited to have you on. You are one of the followers of the best people in the nation right now.
Yes,
Just got named 37th in the nation.
I know. Go Jeremy.
Yeah, shout out to Vero Mortgage, Jeremy Engel. I'm excited. Today we are going to go over the pre-approval process, VA style,
Yes.
which Jeremy also got named for 50th in the nation as far as VA loans.
Yep.
So you are a part of this whole process. Excited to have you on. Thank you for coming.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited and happy to talk about what we do and how our team works. And yeah.
Awesome. So go ahead, tell us a little bit about yourself. How long have you been in the industry? Just anything you'd like someone to know.
So I come from a teaching background. I worked with kids. I've worked with kids since I was probably 12, 13 years old. I actually used to babysit Jeremy's kids. And for those of you that don't know Jeremy, he is the team leader at Vero Mortgage. He's a loan officer, very well known and respected loan officer. And so I used to babysit for him since I was 17 years old.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. He was neighbors with one of my friends, and I saw his kids in the pool when I was over at my friend's house, and I was like, "Oh, they're so cute!
Hey, they're cute. I should babysit them."
Yeah. Well, I was at the time raising money to buy a bike, and I was like, "Oh, she has cute kids. I want to babysit for her." His wife, Michelle. So I was like, "What is her number? I want to babysit." So I reached out to Michelle, his wife, and I met them, and quickly we became very close, and very lucky to grow close to them so quickly and babysat for them. I moved to San Luis to go to Cuesta College, and it was around the same time that they moved. So I got to keep babysitting for them, and I'd go on trips with them to babysit. And
Mammoth.
yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, Hawaii. I went to Colorado. There's so many fun places.
Does he need any more babysitters?
I know. I always joke with him. I'm like, "Oh, you guys gonna have another one? I'll leave my job and go back to being your babysitter."
I love it.
Yeah,
I love it.
So they ended up being like my family away from family. I'd go to their house for dinners, and they kind of took me under their wing because I was living away from home. And I ended up moving back home, got a TK teaching position at a private school that I went to. Yeah. I actually love the younger kids.
Yeah, that's a different job, and you fit the description. So.
Yeah, well, thanks.
Cool.
I'm like, I have friends. I'm like, I don't know how you teach high school or the older kids. Like,
Right.
I'll hang out with 2, 3, 4-year-olds all day long versus high schoolers.
Yeah. How long did you do that for?
I did that for 3 years. It was kind of neat. It was the elementary school that I went to, and my little sister was going to at the time. So it was an awesome opportunity, and kind of working with the teachers that taught me, and a lot of the values that I grew up with, I got to teach back to those kids.
That's cool.
But I wanted to go into real estate on the side.
Yeah.
I kind of wanted something more, and I was just craving a little bit more.
Was that because you're babysitting Jeremy's kids and seeing what he's doing, or was it just something that you naturally were thinking that you wanted to do before that?
So I was teaching at a private school, and there's not a ton of money there. And so I just kind of wanted something more that was my own. I love to travel. I love to do things. And a part of that was from Jeremy and his wife being able to, see the world and do a lot of fun things all the time.
Yeah.
And I saw, he was working hard all the time. And so, yeah, his wife and her family come from real estate too. So, she was in real estate. They hustled together since they got married, or since they got together. So they were definitely a couple that I looked up to in regards to hustling in the real estate world.
Were you there when they were like mowing lawns and stuff?
No,
Okay.
actually he did have that maintenance company, but it was towards the end, I think.
Okay.
I remember
How
seeing
cool.
the truck in his driveway, like
Yeah.
the Ingle maintenance or whatever.
Yeah, Jeremy talked about that, and they did like a screen printing business and all that. So it was around that time?
Yes,
Wow.
towards the end, I think. Yeah.
I love it.
Yes.
Okay.
So I feel like they always had their things.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
The grind, the hustle.
the grind. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. He was always working hard. So they were definitely someone I was wanting to reach out to and get their advice. And immediately when I asked them for advice on getting into real estate, he had just opened up Vero Mortgage.
Okay.
So he kind of opened up his own branch within Country Club Mortgage.
Got it.
And it was very new. I think it had only been like 2 or 3 months. And he was like, why don't you just come work for me?
Yeah.
You can learn from the ground up. Like, obviously, I know how you work. And I know your people skills. And, let's go. Come.
Yeah.
Let's do
That
it.
you'll take care of people also.
Yeah.
Because you take care of his own kids.
Right. Yeah.
How cool.
And he would see that, like, I would read certain situations. Like, he's like, you'll jump in when you don't even need to be told. So he was like, trust me, it'll work. So I was like, I was not expecting that.
Yeah.
And I took a couple days to think about it, and I was like, this is an opportunity I can't say no to.
Yeah.
So I just said yes, and
Look at you now.
yeah.
How long have you been in it with Vero?
Coming up on 4 years. Actually, this is like my almost around the time of my 4-year anniversary
Nice.
of when I made the leap. So it's been a crazy wild ride, I will say. I started doing marketing for him at the beginning.
Okay.
So it's kind of nice. I met so many people right at the beginning. I would go and deliver wine to them and just get to know them. And
The famous Vero wine.
Vero Vino.
Vero Vino wine.
Yeah.
That's cool. What else marketing wise did you do for him starting out?
I started a little bit of the social media. I started a little bit of the, he had bought and implemented some of these programs for agents to co-brand their listings with him. So anytime an agent has a listing, what we use would basically co-brand some flyers and open house sign-in sheets, and you can put it on social media.
List reports.
Yeah, that's what we use. So I kind of got that up and going at the beginning.
Nice.
Okay. he had started with some agents, but he had a list, and it takes time to go through and add people's pictures, profiles, all of that in. So I kind of got familiar with that, and then when I would go and talk to agents, I would present what this program offered.
Cool.
And yeah.
Literally started from the ground up.
Yeah.
To seeing it now to where he's it was 195 million in volume that he had.
Yeah.
And then
that happened so quickly
566 loans in a year
last year. Mm-hmm.
That's crazy.
It's pretty crazy.
Yeah. I could only imagine the stuff that you've seen as far as getting a deal closed. Obviously, you see him get deals closed.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there's some ways to where you're like, I'm not even going to worry or ask. He just closed it.
Yeah, it just happens.
And that is Jeremy.
Yeah, and especially with that type of volume, it's like you literally see it all.
Yeah.
And it happens so fast. I would say like 2019, it picked up. And then come 2020, it was insane. That was when the rates were dropping in the 2s.
Those were the good days.
14-hour work days.
Those were the great days right there.
Yeah. It's like the good old days you reminisce on in high school.
Yeah. We talk about those, and obviously it's a good thing because we got the experience.
Yeah.
I think that's the positive side is we both saw a market that has not been around ever.
Yeah.
And
it was like everyone was kind of learning. We were all learning as we go. And
even veteran agents.
Yeah.
That was something to where, they knew how to handle the scenarios, but at a rapid pace, that was a whole different scenario to where now watching it, I saw how some people handled it and some didn't handle it, I guess is the best way to put it.
Yeah.
And
planning for what's to come after that.
Yeah. And it was a great learning experience, I feel, for
Absolutely.
both of us to see two high volume people. And when I say that, I mean Jeremy and Brian.
Yeah.
Just go after it and then really not even sweat. Honestly, that's how I feel about them now looking at it. There's obviously the market has shifted to where now there's a little bit of sweating going on where before I thought they were sweating out at that market. And I'm like, they weren't.
No, and they knew it was like, this is not going to last forever.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it was great. And I feel like we were able to learn a lot as far as, like you said, what makes up closing a deal, and like, how do you really give these clients all the TLC that they need and deserve when you have so many files going on at once, because it is insane. The market is insane.
Gotta be organized.
But just staying true to like what Brianne and Jeremy's values and I guess the standards that they hold for us being on their team.
Expectations.
Yeah, the expectations and
they got those in the best.
They sure do.
In the best way. Well, let's get into that. What are the essentials that a client will need to start the process of a VA loan?
So what they'll do first is they'll fill out a quick application, a few step process that will consist of providing their address, employment history for the last 2 years, and they'll just basically their personal information so we can kind of see what their situation looks like. And we request standard documentation like pay stubs, W-2s, bank statements, depending on their situation. Like if they own a home, we'll typically want a mortgage statement. If they have their own business, we'll require tax returns. In VA's case, if they're transferring from a different base to Lemoore, for example, we would want to see their transfer orders. And then with VA and FHA, the government loans, we require that we run their non-purchasing spouse's credit. So we take into account any of their spouse's debt. We're not necessarily looking at their credit, but just what their monthly obligated debt is, because that our client would be obligated on any of that debt.
And that's specific to California in this instance, correct?
It's
if I'm not mistaken.
for all FHA and VA loans across the board.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Got it.
Yeah.
For some reason, I just thought it was like they had to have it in California. Some people were saying that they've never had their spouse. And I'm like,
and their spouse doesn't have to go on the loan.
Yep.
They can go on title. They just basically, if you run into a situation where maybe your spouse doesn't have the best credit and it might be bringing you down a little bit, they don't have to go on the loan. We're literally just looking at their debt.
Got it. Mm-hmm. I love that.
Yeah.
That's a cool scenario. What is the minimum FICO score in order for a VA client to get pre-approved through you guys?
With VA, generally, we'd be looking at about 580 to 620. VA is actually pretty forgiving and lenient when it comes to credit scores. They mostly rely, as far as the approval goes, on the borrower's residual income. And with VA, that is basically the money that they have left over to pay for groceries, gas, etc. So that has to be under 120%.
Okay.
So basically, you can kind of have a little bit higher debt and lower credit score. Their main concern is that residual income.
And then let's get into DTI. Is that something that is important for a new buyer to come in? So DTI is debt to income ratio, correct?
Yes, correct.
Okay. What is the important side of DTI when it comes to a loan?
So the front end debt to income ratio portion is solely for your housing.
Okay.
So that is what you're paying monthly for your mortgage. And then your back end is your mortgage plus any credit cards, auto loans, things like that.
Got it.
So with FHA, they want you to be on the front end under a 47 and back end under a 57. So FHA is a little bit more strict. With VA, it really varies. You could have a pretty high debt to income ratio. As long as that residual income, that money left over, is under that 120%, and you have decent credit, you'll typically get an approval. Yeah. They're a little strict with derogatory credit. So if you have any collections, things like that, a lot of collections and a lower FICO, you might not get that
late
approval.
Payments and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So VA is a little bit flexible. You can kind of manipulate things a little bit and try and get that approval, which is nice.
And you guys obviously take into account of if they have a car loan or any big thing that someone could have on there. Typically, your biggest thing is probably a car loan, I'd imagine.
Yeah, car loan. And if you have any other homes that you own, that's going to be a big chunk of that debt.
So that affects your overall pre-approval. So that'll drop you down. Let's say they're approved at $400,000, but hey, now we have this car payment that's added into it.
Yeah.
Now they're down to $350.
Yeah.
So it's stuff like that people need to keep in mind, that debt
really
that you are still paying, it does take effect into the home purchasing side of things. 2 cars, 3 cars, whatever it may be. Yeah.
If you're thinking about buying a home anytime in the near future, it's, might not be a good idea to get that new car with a $900 payment because you want to really maximize your buying power if you're thinking about buying a home, because you can't live in your car for the most part.
Unless you have a Tesla. And Tesla's getting there to where it's going to be a home eventually.
Or a nice camper.
Go plug it in and you could play Mario Kart and all that stuff in those things now.
I know, seriously.
What fees should be noted for someone that's coming in to get pre-approved?
So with VA specifically, it is an awesome program because the veterans they're not required to put a down payment. So it's really just their closing costs that they're paying for. They can finance 100% of the loan, but VA does charge what's called a funding fee. And that is based off of if you've used your VA benefits to purchase a home before, if you're putting any money down. So it's basically a percentage, and that fee is rolled into your loan amount. So they don't have to come in with it out of pocket, which is nice. But for example, if you have a veteran they're financing 100% of the home, but they've never used their VA benefits before, their funding fee is going to be 2.15% of the loan amount.
And that just got lowered, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah.
So we could celebrate that now too.
Any drop is a win. It was 2.3. Now it's 2.15.
Yeah. And that's a lot in real estate.
Yeah.
People are like, hey, that's only $405.
Yeah. If it's a difference between like $23.05 a month and, maybe $22.85 a month, sometimes it's significant and they want to be under a certain amount, and so it's good, and it
saves some money.
It does, monthly and out of pocket, because they don't have to come in with that fee out of pocket.
I love it. So funding fee got lowered. That's something that just happened.
Yeah, it just happened this year. It typically is updated every year. Sometimes it doesn't really change much or at all, but we did have that decrease from the 2.3 to the 2.15.
I love celebrating stuff like that.
I know, anything's a win in real estate.
It is, especially for VA clients alone. It's not that they make a lot of money as it is. It's stuff that, hey, we can save you a few extra dollars now to go towards upgrading your home.
Yes. And educating them on those, because then it builds that trust on, hey, you're trying to take care of me, and it goes a long way.
I love it.
Yeah.
Let's go right from the beginning. So they obviously now have their pre-approval in. They've sent you all that information that you talked about earlier. What are the next 30 days looking like after they are approved through you guys?
So once they're pre-approved, they get to do the fun part with you, which is house shopping.
Yeah.
So,
don't go buy your home alone. Don't do it, people.
Got to do the face.
Take someone with you. Don't go buy your home alone.
Exactly. Yeah. So they'll get to do their shopping once they find the home that they love. Put an offer in. If it's accepted, which it will be.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. We go into escrow. So on our end, we get a copy of the contract from the agent and we kind of get our file started on our end. We'll kind of send some helpful info to the buyer as we get started. We'll order the appraisal, which an appraisal is a report on the property, basically stating that what the value is of the home. So on our end, we want to make sure that the buyer is purchasing the home for what it's worth, and it calls out any safety required repairs that have to be completed before closing. So that's part of the loan process is we order that appraisal
Instantly.
and a VA instantly within 24 hours.
Yes, right away.
We really do.
Yeah, that's the part I love
And
about you guys.
with VA, it's assigned instantly,
Right.
For the most part.
And so what I've heard about that is it's a VA pool of appraisers. So
Within
this
that area.
specific appraiser is coming in and they understand this loan. So when they come in, they're checking for similar findings, whatever it may be that they end up. There's a wide variety of list of things that could pop up.
Yes.
But they have all been trained, certified. They have their license for this loan, if I'm not mistaken.
And they are VA approved.
Okay.
So they have to get certified and approved with VA specifically.
And they can go up and down California. Is it something where they stay in certain sections, or how does that work exactly?
That's a good question.
Okay. I've always wondered that if they just stay in Central Valley or if they can.
I believe they have to go within the county.
Okay.
There's a general hub center, and ours is in Phoenix, I believe.
Okay.
So anytime we need updates or case by case, if there's something that we need to go to VA for, we call that hub center. So it's not specific to county, but I believe within the hub center, they have to have their appraisers approved.
Got it.
With each county. I'm pretty sure because I've run into that issue once or twice where it came up. So I want to say it's with different counties. Yeah.
Got it. So after the appraisal, what's the next step for
our
clients?
We go through a verification process. So on our back end, we're verifying their employment. We're verifying and reviewing the documents that we have from their pre-approval, the bank statements, the W-2s, all of that. And those, along with the verifications, we basically prep to send the file to underwriting. So we make sure that we have enough in our file for the underwriter to approve and basically make sure that the guidelines are being met for their entire credit package, their credit, their assets. Even with VA, we want to make sure that they have enough funds in their bank account to pay for their closing costs. Their income documentation is there. All of that.
And your underwriters are in-house also?
They are in-house. They're all local. We don't call a 1-866 number within a different state. They're all local.
No third-party fees here.
No, it's all local. We're all people.
Yeah.
We exist and we care. Our underwriters care. All our funders care. Everyone is here locally.
The part I like about when you guys send us the email of, hey, it's in underwriting, if there's ever an issue, I've seen it in multiple escrows with other loan companies to where it takes some time for underwriting to get back.
Yeah.
The part I do love about your guys' company, it's, hey, we just heard that there's something that could pop up, and instantly, we're fixing it before we're even getting that final paperwork that's coming from underwriting.
Yeah.
So I do like the in-house side of it. I'm sure any realtor would. That's why I love bragging about you guys is you guys make the process to be 2 steps ahead. You guys make that process simple.
I think honesty is just like the biggest thing you can do in real estate, because there are things that are gonna go wrong. And, it wouldn't be real estate without fun things that happen on different files. So I would say we try to be as honest as we can, because nobody's perfect. And there are things that come up during the verification process, or things that are out of our control with the property, or with, someone's job, like leaving their job or something, that we want to make sure we bring to everyone's attention that needs to be brought up.
There was this when I first started, there was a time you guys called and said that my clients had added a PetSmart reoccurring fee that you guys needed underwriting to confirm. And it was only like $19.99 or something like that a month. And just starting out, I call you. I'm like, is this normal? And you said it typically no, but just for this instance, every escrow, like you're saying, it's going to throw you a curveball, but they need to know where this $20 a month is going. How long is this payment going for?
Want to make sure it's not a new credit card that they open that we have to hit on their debt. And if they're already maxed, then we have a problem. Maybe.
Yeah. And so this is all through underwriting, right?
Yeah, all through underwriting. So our back end kind of preps the file for the underwriter.
Okay.
And so we submit it to them once it's ready, and the underwriter reviews, and what they're looking for is just to make sure that all the guidelines are being met. And they review and let us know they'll say, hey, your loan's approved, but we might need X, Y, and Z items. Provide these, and then we'll sign you off and you can move on into the closing portion of the process.
What are some things that you've seen that they've needed?
So it might be that we have their most recent 2 months bank statements, but there's a large deposit. Maybe they pulled from their 401k and that's enough for us to get into underwriting, but we might, the underwriter will want to see where that deposit came from.
Okay.
And so then we have to source that deposit at that time, get their 401k statement, show the withdrawal from their 401k. Something that we can work on at that point that is not going to hold us up from having the underwriters see the file.
Okay.
So typically it might be just a little bit further documentation than what we had. With verifications, it might be that we have the verification of employment, but maybe they want to see a breakdown of the last 12 months of their payroll from the employer. Just a little bit further than what we had before, so we can complete the package and they can say, okay, you're okay to move into closing.
Got it. Mm-hmm. All right. So we get all that stuff back from underwriting. What are you guys now planning for the client?
So once the underwriter has reviewed, we have all of our conditions in and they've signed off, the buyer will get one last estimate called a closing disclosure. And it's an estimate that shows their monthly payment and their cash to close. And once they've signed that, then they can sign their final loan documents with escrow around 3 days later.
Okay. CD,
the closing disclosure CD. It's always a fun email to send and receive, I'm sure.
It is.
That means we're literally on our timeline for closing.
Yeah. And everything usually lines up with you guys to where it's a very simple process. To me, that means we're closing.
Yeah.
Once I see those forms are all being handed out
right off to the finish line.
And then it's getting sent to title, Chicago title. I've mentioned this one too with Jackie out there.
Yeah.
They do a very good job with our clients also with a mobile notary. So there's times where our clients are overseas or they're in Texas, Virginia, and we're setting up a mobile notary to come get this stuff that you guys, the CD forms. How many signatures are on there? You probably have a lot.
It's like 120 pages, I think, between our docs and escrow docs, because everything on the property, on their loan, on literally everything is in those documents.
So set aside a few hours to get this stuff signed.
Sometimes, I mean, some people are in and out in like 20, 30 minutes. They're just like boom, 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 boom. But then some do take like over an hour.
Right.
And then those poor power of attorneys that sign for the ones that are gone. I always joke. I was at a signing a couple weeks ago with a mom. Her son was he was moving across the country. He's active duty. He's moving across the country because he's transferring to Lemoore.
Okay.
And she was like, he's gonna owe me because you have to sign. It's the client's name and their name as an attorney in fact.
So it's not just a simple signature.
No.
POAs.
So signing that long sentence 120 times or whatever it may be.
Shout out to Dustin. He did that for our house.
Oh yeah, that's right.
He talks about how hard that was to Brianne all the time, and she's like, "Well, sign the paperwork."
Yeah.
But Dustin did. He was our POA for.
That's right. I forgot about that.
For signing, and we still owe him till this day. He talks about it.
Owe him a new hand.
Okay, so. Power of attorney, that's also huge in our industry. Our brokerage, I would say more so we see it with VA because they might be deployed on ship. Right.
Yeah.
And picking the right POA is important on that also.
Yes.
Is making sure that they're reviewing those documents to a power of attorney is someone that you are comfortable with signing those documents, making sure all your numbers match up. Because if you call us, we'll be like, who's your POA?
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. We won't do that.
Exactly.
But in VA specifically, it is important to make sure that you're choosing the right person. To do that.
Someone you trust and can rely on.
So after you give out the CD, you guys are done.
We are, our doc department is prepping for that 120 pages of docs to go out to the title company.
Boom.
3 days later. So if they signed their CD on a Friday, Saturday, Monday, they can sign their loan docs Tuesday. So basically we send those documents out and the escrow company will contact the buyer to set up their signing. They sign and then they'll send their final funds in. So any remaining balance that's due.
Closing costs is what we're talking about here. So that runs about 3% right now in this market currently.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're looking at about 3% of the purchase price.
Okay.
So you'll give a deposit at the beginning of escrow, and that goes towards that 3% final amount due. So they'll give a little bit at the beginning, and then at the very end, after they've signed those loan docs, they'll wire in the remaining due.
And then after that, we are sending it over, and we're hoping to record at this point, right? Are we getting to the recording side of the process?
Yes, we are. We get those docs back that the buyer signed between us and escrow. We are prepping to get the file closed. We fund the loan, and escrow records it. And what that means is it's recorded with the county and the buyer's name, and it's officially theirs. And then it's off to you guys and get to give them their keys.
I love it. So out of that 30 days, what are your do's and don'ts that you would do in that 30 days?
I always tell clients, live your best simple life.
Okay.
Because, I would say definitely do not leave your job. Keep everything the same. We always say don't open any new credit accounts. Don't change anything with your employment, your assets, your credit. It can all be detrimental to your qualifying. And unfortunately, with some of those decisions that are made, we might not be able to fix it.
Right.
We do our best to, because it happens. We see it happen a lot, even though we tried to advise at the beginning of the things not to do. It happens, so we try to do our best, but it's happened before where unfortunately we can't do anything.
Yeah, and I think it's important for a client to be transparent also throughout the process of, hey, I bought this.
Yeah.
I needed this car for my family.
Yeah.
To not necessarily drag it out, but there is a seller on the other side. They may have an escrow that they need this to close in order for them to move into their new home. So I think that's very important, rather than just saying it's something that we can't control. Communication is huge on something like that.
Absolutely. And I love when clients, they'll come to me and say, hey, I wasn't sure, but this is what happened. And I'm like, I love, if you're not sure, come and ask me and I'll let you know if you're okay. Sometimes they'll say, I deposited my paycheck. Is that okay? And I'm like, yes, absolutely. Thank you for asking.
Yeah. Do it as like you said, your best simple life.
Your best simple life. Yeah. That's a good way to put it. I have that on my welcome email.
Yeah.
Live your best simple life and we'll take care of the rest.
Yeah. I tell my clients, wait to buy the furniture if you need it. You don't want any big purchases that are going to hit and flag
you
when
don't
it
want
comes
to cut
underwriting.
into your savings, and you don't want to open any new debt.
Right. So when it comes to purchasing those things, close on the home, and you could literally go buy whatever you want without people asking or having to send in another statement.
Exactly.
Just 30 days, hopefully fingers crossed that we can close within that time, which we typically do. Just hold off on buying those big things. And then once we're done after those 30 days, you don't have to listen to anything we say. Just make sure you make your monthly payment.
Just make your monthly payment. Awesome.
Well, Faith, I appreciate you coming on. Obviously, you're seeing the growth in both of our companies as much as I am.
Yeah.
We appreciate your not just your company, but just the fact that you're here for our clients whenever they need, showing up to events that we do on Thursday night marketplaces. And we got the 4th of July coming up too. You're always that person to be like, hey, yeah, I'll be there.
Yeah.
Even birthdays and stuff, you show up to family events. So we appreciate you as not just a company, coworker, but
it's a two-way
a
street.
Friendship, family. We appreciate everything that you do for us.
Thank you. I love you guys too. And I think you've definitely become more like family. And I think that is what those years have built, the trust and relationship built, that Brianne and Jeremy they laid that foundation, and we're just continuing on with it.
We got to keep it going.
Keep it going.
Someone's got to do it.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, thank you again. Thank you for everyone listening, and for all the veterans that have worked for us, current active duty. We appreciate your service. Thank you.